Well, you've got quite the collection here. Looking across
Just a real foot
table.
collection.
Yeah.
You walk into this room and you're just completely overwhelmed. I mean, it's like, where do I start?
This kind of collecting is becoming very popular. People are looking for old hunting gear and calls. There's hundreds here.
How did you even get into
exactly.
this?
How did it
'Cause
get started?
How did you start this? Addiction.
Well, it is. It
Yes,
kind of
it is.
is an addiction.
It is.
I've always been fascinated by old stuff. I probably started collecting calls in 2010 or 11. And I wanted a checkered Earl Dennison duck call. That's what I wanted.
Okay.
And I found a guy who's become a good friend of mine, had some Earl Dennison duck calls, and he was selling some of them. On that first day, I bought this call right here, which is probably one of the oldest duck calls that I have. It's an Earl Dennison. And then this Tom Turpin is probably one of the oldest from the teens and 20s. It started from there, and as you can see, it's exploded.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, for listening. We got a great show lined up for you today. We're back in West Tennessee. Miss Amy Snyder is helping me co-host. Amy, thank you for having us again. We're always hanging out here in West Tennessee here lately, seems like.
And I know.
But I appreciate you inviting us down and working this in. This is going to be a cool show. We got a couple shows lined up for you here. So this is going to be some great information all about old duck calls.
Well,
and
if you're a
mini calls.
collector
Yeah.
of anything, this show is for you. Because we're going to talk about some pretty cool stuff from Reelfoot.
Real cool history, and then we've got some even some history back on some family members of Mr. Tony Childress. And Tony, thank you for having us. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me to do this show.
Yeah, thank you for letting us invade your space today.
Well, you're welcome. I hope I don't disappoint.
We've already had great conversations off camera, so I don't think there's any disappointment coming our way today. It's been a great tour here of his office. We are in Dyersburg, Tennessee, and we're going to explore these calls and some family history. But first, if you don't mind, Tony, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Tony Childress. I'm the Chancellor of the 29th Judicial District of the state of Tennessee, which includes Dyer and Lake counties. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Leanne. We live here in Dyer County. I know you don't want to know my age, but I'm 56 years old. I farm still a little bit. My brother, Wally, he farms as well. Got 2 children, Adam and Mallory, and I live a kind of a boring life, but I do like to hunt things. And one of the ways I expand that opportunities is by hunting for collectibles. Some people call it junk. I don't know that I disagree, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, this kind of collecting is becoming very popular. People are looking for old hunting gear and calls and artwork and all kinds of great stuff. And it's got to be fun to go dig and look for this stuff.
It is. It's fun. Takes a lot of time.
Well, as he was telling us earlier, he's being a little short right now, but he likes to go to the basement, start in the very back corner, and then work his way back up.
You're telling almost secrets.
Easy.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought that was insider information.
I'm a collector of things too. We like to look for the brown recluses because that's where the good stuff is.
That's where it is.
Yeah. It's I think, like I said earlier, it's becoming popular. People, even if it's not hunting junk, it's other junk. People love to go dig and find some cool things that reflect on the history of their state or your county or whatever. But I'm excited to be here today, and let's dive in. You mentioned Wally. Wally's your brother. He's one of our commissioners. So
absolutely.
We appreciate his service to the state of Tennessee, the sportsman of Tennessee, and so it was good to see him a little bit earlier.
Yeah, he ran off.
He stopped by.
Yeah,
he did run off.
He had to work for a living.
Yeah. But so you mentioned your family, but your family runs deep in the history of TWRA and the Tennessee Game and Fish Commission.
And
Reelfoot, yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of that.
Well, my uncle, Charles Childress, he was an old World War II vet, and as far as I can tell, he, I guess, got employed, and this is him right here in his, he probably looks about late 20s, early 30s there. That's probably in the late 40s, early 50s. He I guess he got his job with the Tennessee Game and Fish Commission.
Mm-hmm.
I know his badge is number 3.
Yeah.
He had that till he retired in the 1980s, and people have told me he was what y'all call one of the 49ers.
Yes.
Now, I'm not entirely certain what the 49ers mean. Can you explain that to me?
We'll let Amy, the former officer, explain that.
Well,
Or
actually,
she's still an officer.
Well, yeah, but that was long before my time. But that was some of the first 49 officers that we had, the Game and Fish. So, and these old badges are highly collectible if you're one of those people that collect TWRA things like this one. I'm just kidding. I have gone nuts over some of his collection here. But not only do you have his state of Tennessee Game and Fish Commission, you also have his federal badge, which I have never seen a federal badge, and this has absolutely blown my mind today.
It's old and corroded, and that's the way I like things.
Yes.
Old and crusty, and he started his career, I guess, at Reelfoot Lake. He was from Mobile County.
So this would have been his federal commission.
Okay.
Yes, this was his federal commission.
Yeah, and as you see in here, he's just got his state badge on. But we all have a federal commission as long as a state commission, and that's how we enforce the Lacey Act and the federal violations.
Right. Well, with those properties throughout the state, you got to help and work on those properties as well. Yeah, that's very cool.
And I've noticed about a lot of their old uniforms. There's one sitting over there.
Yeah, and you had some shirts.
Yeah,
and
he has
stuff
some
too.
of the, and we'll have to. Yeah, I've never seen the shirts, the original shirts, still in the boxes.
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
It's like you never got to them. They're still packaged the same way you buy a shirt today. Pinned and folded.
well, you actually buy them like that anymore. But anyway,
Uncle Charles was born in 1919. Was a child of the Depression, and when he passed away, he kept, I'd say, everything, because that's just how they had to survive back then. I remember my grandmother, his mother, telling me how tough it was, and he wore things until they wore out, and when he passed away, there were just boxes and boxes of brand new. I guess it was where they
uniform items.
yeah, they gave. I mean, I guess it was part of their allotment.
Yeah, sure. And I guess he probably had a shirt that fit well and he liked, and those
Well,
never got.
you kind of you do. You get your uniform allotment, and I do. I have my favorites that I will wear more often. You get boots or shirts, and that's what you wear until that one's got to go. So
Until they get worn.
Yeah, but you do. You get your favorites.
And that's wool and I've noticed a lot of their uniforms. I don't know how it wouldn't been very comfortable compared to what they wear today.
Right.
A lot of it was formal law enforcement.
Yeah,
wear.
it looks like they were all like what we call our Class A dress now, but that's what that looks like. They're in their nice dress shirt and ties, but that is a pretty cool photo.
in his derby.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Yeah, you see them in different hats. You had another photo here with it's more of a LE style cap or police officer style hat. So that's pretty neat. The different styles of uniform they had back then, and the changes across. The changes you see today, how they've changed, but a lot of it's still similar.
And that is at Reelfoot. So
That is a real foot, yes. He worked there until they, I guess, made him retire when he turned 60, which would have probably been, he was born in 1919, so you do the math, 79 and 80. And I can remember him driving a Nova car. That was his, it wasn't a truck or a four-wheel drive, it was a little black Nova car. And he told me me and my brother, a lot of stories about how they used to enforce the game laws.
Yeah.
And what I found to be most interesting about it was he always told me, he said, you knew who was hunting and shooting game to feed their families, and you knew who was doing it for fun. Mm-hmm. And you made your decisions of whether or not to write them a ticket based upon those knowledge of the area.
Yeah.
Now, that may not have been the way to do it now, but remember, they were Depression era people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the stories I'm sure that he could tell, and the history and the adventures. I mean, we've seen some old film of some stuff that's shot back in the day, and it's cool to watch. And I'm sure hearing those stories firsthand was really neat.
Yes,
well, y'all were saying earlier, you and your brother were talking about him chasing the crappie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
kind of, because people probably wouldn't understand that, but bring that up about chasing the crappie from Reelfoot.
Well, the way I understand it is back then, and actually during my lifetime, you could go to a restaurant at Reelfoot and order a crappie meal, which is crappie's a game fish. So I think Reelfoot was one of the only places in the state, maybe the country, that you could catch crappie for sale on the market. And according to him, Reelfoot couldn't produce the poundage of stuff that got sold, so he said people were catching them on the river and oxbows and things like that, and a lot of them would get sold up into Chicago and areas like that.
Really?
So that was trying to enforce the I guess the crappie laws at the time.
Yeah. So did they cross state lines going after those guys? I mean, I guess they'd have to, wouldn't they?
I guess he could with that law enforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, with the federal.
Yeah. Wow.
Different time.
Cool. That's cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, you've got quite the collection here. Looking across
Just a Reelfoot collection. Yeah. I mean, it's from a collector's, from someone who collects. You walk into this room and you're just completely overwhelmed. I mean, it's like, where do I start? From the old licenses, from the old law books, to the calls, to the paintings on the wall, to even the shell boxes that are sitting around everywhere. I mean, it is absolutely collector's overload when you walk in here, and even the decoys. I mean, I could just. Anyway, I've been taking a lot of photos.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into these calls. There's hundreds here, and you've got some of your favorites and some of the oldest, and some of right there in front of you, but.
First, how did you even get into
exactly.
this?
How did it get started?
How did you start this? Addiction.
It isn't. It
Yes,
kind of
it
is an addiction.
It is.
But when there's no hunting season open, this is
what you do.
This is your hunting season, right?
Yes, and I guess the collecting bug bit me when I was a kid raised on a farm. We used to have to chop cotton, and back on the Oldbine River where we were at, you would run across Indian arrowheads. So I would always come back with a pocket full of rocks. Probably did more looking for rocks than I did for wastes. And just over the years, I've always been fascinated by old stuff. Now, it was a lot of time before I could start affording to collect calls like this. I probably started collecting calls in 2010 or 11. And I wanted a checkered Earl Dennison duck call. That's what I wanted.
Okay.
And I found a guy who's become a good friend of mine. He had some Earl Dennison duck calls, and he was selling some of them. Somebody put me in contact with him, and matter of fact, I see the first call I bought right over there in that box. And on that first day, I bought that call and this call right here, which is probably one of the oldest duck calls that I have. That one, it's an Earl Dennison, and then this Tom Turpin is probably one of the oldest from the teens and 20s. But it started from there, and it, as you can see, it's exploded.
Well, so the folks that don't know, like me, I'm not a duck hunter, but Earl Dennison, what's the significance of his call, and was call making what put him on the map, or was he a big hunter?
Earl Dennison his trademark was the duck call man, and a friend of mine, Ray Carroll, has written several articles in some magazines about him. And that was the friend I bought my first call about.
Okay.
And he probably, Earl Dennison and Tom Turpin were probably some of the first people who marketed their calls nationwide.
Okay.
Earl Dennison would, up at the flyway, the top of the flyway, their season starts before ours, and he would make a bunch of calls. He's from Dyer County.
Okay.
He passed away.
Okay.
And he would go up to the beginning of the flyway and sell his calls all the way down to the bottom. Go to sporting events and shows that, we still have sports shows now, and he would go to those. And
definitely.
He had a tame Susie that he would carry on his shoulder named Tootsie. And he'd call, and she'd call back. So I just wanted that because it was that Earl Dennison call, because it was a local call. And then I found out that he was not the only person from Dyer County that made a duck call. So I decided, well, I need to get one from each person from Dyer County that made
How
a duck
Dick
call.
should start.
Definitely.
I just need one more.
And then I said, well, since the judicial district I'm in is Dyer and Lake County, I ought to get one call from Dyer and Lake County.
Yeah.
But I have been good in limiting my collecting area to Dyer and Lake, except when I come up with something that is not in Dyer and Lake, but I won't.
Oh, so see, that's the addiction.
Yeah.
I have to justify it now.
Well, I shouldn't say want, I should say need.
Yes,
right.
neat.
Unless that's what you tell your wife.
Yes.
I need these,
needed
darling.
that. I needed that.
My wife has never said a thing about me collecting and said, well, I'm glad you got it. She's been very supportive.
That's great. That's cool.
All right. So we've talked about your first call, and you said one of your oldest. So what is your most unique call here? And if any of y'all can see some of these calls in the footage, oh my gosh, there is some amazing wood that, there's some curly maple, and
Yeah.
we've had some other discussions about some of these, but they're just absolutely beautiful.
Unique. That's kind of in the.
And unique for you, because everybody has everybody would classify as something unique. But what's the most unique to you here?
Well, there's probably two really
Okay.
that are very. Let me go back a little bit. When people make calls back, this is wood and the reed is metal. These were tools. They were just selling them. I mean, so there were no labels. Most of them didn't come in boxes. So you collect and you try to figure out a lot of these old calls who made things. And I'm no expert at all. There's people that know a lot more about it than I do. And this is a very unique call that I found in Dyer County. And I've been told by a few people that know more about this stuff than I do that this is possibly a checkered Perry hooker, which I hope it is, because if I ever decide to part with it, it would be that valuable probably.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do notice that on the top of it, that it has somebody's carved an H. And this is not B. Perry Hooker's, standard call, but I think it's his Big Lake tribute. This call right here I found in Sandburg, and I've been told by a few expert collectors that this is probably a non-checkered Victor Glodo duck call, and this is probably one of the holy grails of Tennessee duck call collectors. So it's very unique to me. And of course, this duck call right here, I'm from Bogota, Tennessee, and this duck call right here was made by a guy from Bogota, Tennessee, and I just love it because of that and how I came about these things. I just stumbled upon them, but it's kind of got its own characteristics and appointments, but
Yeah.
they're pretty unique.
So which one of these have you called a duck in with?
I don't know that I've ever called a duck in with any duck call. My Uncle Charles, he used to say, if it wasn't for the duck call, ducks would be extinct. We scare more ducks away with duck calling than.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a unique call. That's probably one of the oldest Tom Turpin duck calls around.
Well, the carvings and the shapes and the different the influences from the different makers. It's pretty cool to sit here and look at these. I mean, I like the one that the checkered call that you mentioned. I thought that was one of my favorites that I saw in the group. But then you look around and you see the one with the duck carved in it. And that's really cool.
Right here.
Painted, right in front of you there.
Yeah, the hand painted.
Oh, yeah.
Hand-painted.
3D. It almost looks 3D.
3D, that's neat, and that's a lot of.
And I'm drooling over one of the curly maple ones over there.
Oh yeah.
And I swear there's a tiger eye in here. And anyway, and there's one over there. I would love to know what. And it looks like a wormy oak almost, but
Yeah.
I know they're wood.
really.
Yeah, they are.
Well, let's jump to the wood. I mean, we had that to talk about most unique wood.
Yeah. What is the?
Well, you've mentioned some that are very. She obviously knows her woods. I just know it's wood. And you've pointed out some calls that are in some of these boxes that are very pretty. I like this one, and I think it is curly maple.
It looks it.
I just like the way the look. I mean, the look, and it also. I don't have no idea who this is, but this is an Earl Dennison duck call or a Ferris Garner duck call, who was Earl Dennison's son-in-law, and it was sold in Wisconsin. So that just gives credence to the story that he would go up to the start of the hunting season and travel down. That one's a pretty duck call. This, and I'm going to do something you told me not to do, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Oh, you're good.
I don't know what that's made of, but
Yeah,
that
looks like almost pecanish.
Yeah, that is one of the. This is a porter duck call, who actually taught Earl Dennison by history how to make duck calls. But that's one of the prettiest stoppers that I've ever seen. Don't know what it is, but it's pretty.
And I will say this one,
Oh yeah.
and it's hand painted
hand
here,
painted. Yeah.
and it is beautiful, and it looks like a walnut. On a that's definitely a walnut, but it's just gorgeous.
That's a Glenn Scobie duck call. He was also from New Bern. He passed away here in the last decade. And also, I like the laminated duck calls.
Well, we talked about that one.
Yeah.
It's almost, yeah.
When it's,
But not only do you have duck calls here, but you've got some other calls.
yeah.
oh, yeah, I do.
I'm looking at one right here in
This one?
Yeah.
you got the big turkey
You think
call.
they'd want to see that?
I think they would.
Okay.
Might
This-
want to hear it. Let's hear how it's that.
Here, your turkey.
No.
Yeah. This
I'm
is
more of the stalking in front of it.
There you go. This is a turkey call that was sold, probably made by Earl Dennison. It's got a sticker on it. There's some. I've got some Earl Dennison advertising somewhere. I didn't have it all out where he advertises his turkey calls and also his crow calls. These are pretty hard to come by, and this is one of the things that I didn't want. I needed from a Dyer County collection, so
Yeah,
my wife was understanding on that, and that's pretty neat. I mean, it's and this was actually made when there probably weren't many turkeys here.
Mm-hmm.
So you rarely find any Earl Dennison turkey calls in West Tennessee because there wasn't many turkeys around at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
Of course, then you got the crow calls,
Yeah.
and these go hand in hand with turkey hunting. But if
Sure.
you go back and you look, crow hunting used to be a very popular activity back in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
And if I went, to shoot some video with a guy in Jackson, and oh my gosh, it is so addictive. That is, I could really, really get into crow hunting. I mean, I really want to do it more because it was so much fun, and it's more of a challenge. Oh, they are some smart birds.
Yes. And these people were calling them in with, a piece of wood and a piece of metal. Now I think crow hunting is done electronically and things like that.
It was with us.
So it was a pretty big challenge.
Yeah.
Of course, you got some goose calls. I don't believe I've brought any particular goose calls. Hope that didn't break.
It's not a collector's item or anything.
No, don't worry about it. But we're seeing a lot of Earl Dennison, and we were talking about his labels and how they've changed over the years. And by looking at it, you'd almost have to say Earl Dennison is your favorite. But who is your favorite maker and why?
Well, I have a lot of Earl Dennison duck calls because he was a master marketer probably. But this maker right here is my favorite one, and it's because he was from my hometown. And I was collecting 4 or 5 years before I even knew he made duck calls. And his name's Sam Maupin. And then I asked my dad, did he ever know Sam Maupin? He said, well, yeah, Uncle Sam. He wasn't our uncle, but they called him Uncle Sam. Okay. And he was a person that just was a woodworker in Pagoda. And he made some very unique duck calls. You see that octagon?
Mm-hmm. That's the only one, I think, on this table with that shape.
Well,
with this.
In the corner
yes.
or in the top, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Dyer County, which is the county I live in, had lots of duck call makers. You had Earl Dennison, but then you had E.O. Quinn. You had Scobie, Glenn Scobie. You had N.O. White, and I've got a whole flock of N.O. Whites here. He was a guy who was I guess he was a trade teacher at the Dyersburg High School.
Okay.
And
what a trade to learn.
Yeah.
That's how let's make duck calls.
And he made duck calls, and I've seen some of his advertisements. And a duck call like this, he'd sell for like $2.50. If you want an extra reed, it'd be like 25 cents.
Oh my!
And then you had Tom May, and just you had Doc Ramey. I'm just looking at it. You had Mr. Haddock. Just anyway.
And Jason, you like this one, and I'm gonna reach across the table because
the leather.
the leather and the brass.
Yes.
Now, who made this one?
E.L. Quinn made that one right there. and he was, by all accounts, a machinist by trade, and he would do some very unique things with duck calls.
Yeah.
This is one of the things he would do. And if you look over there in that corner, see all that checkering and carving. He did that.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I didn't see that one earlier. You got the duck head carved in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's got brass bands on it and things of that nature. I like this duck call.
Yeah.
And I like how some of these you still have the original price tags on, which he won't take the original price on the sticker. I mean,
Yeah, we've learned. He doesn't clean it up. It's authentic. It's what it was when you found it. You could see some of these have been used. Some of these may have never been used.
I don't know why he wouldn't take $20 for that one call.
Well, this one was $6.
$6. I'll give you $6 for that one.
Well, maybe one of these days.
I tell you what, this is just. This is fascinating because you just keep looking at them, and we could talk about different ones. So, what is your? I know you talk about I need and I won't. What else are you looking for out there?
Oh my gosh!
Because I told you I had a holy grail of something that I had finally got, one of my Ithaca advertisements. But so, what's yours?
As far as duck calls go,
Well, it didn't have to be, but I mean,
I don't really know. And there's duck call collectors out there that are friends of mine. If they hear that, they may have one, and the price will go up. So I'll just tell you, I'm not really looking for anything.
Yeah.
He's just looking for the next dusty corner, right?
Yes. Yes.
To try to find that next call.
I've been very fortunate in collecting. I'm always on the lookout for another sound mopping. Like that one.
And what is this one? Because this one is different than a lot of the other ones. When this one right here. Yeah, I've been looking at this one too. See how?
Yes, that came out of. I mean, this was a Reelfoot Lake maker.
And I like how they're all labeled. He has a piece of paper in there.
Little note. Yeah.
Note where it came from.
Logan Jackson. And most of the time, if you can find and they're hard to find, there'll be a little nick out of them because it's very, frail, I guess is what it was. I don't know that I've ever blown. You want to blow it? No. But it's
I'm not tearing anything up.
I mean, it's just a Logan Jackson.
But it's distinctively different.
It's definitely
from everyone else.
A unique design.
Yes.
The hole on top and how the mouthpiece.
I mean, of everything here, that one stands out just from the way it's made.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it looks like a little shallow dish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he was from Lake County.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, we're going to run out of time here. I appreciate your openness to let us come and look and explore and hold these, and it's very cool. We're going to keep you around.
If anything got broke, he broke it.
We're going to keep you around and do another show here in a minute. If you
Yes.
can see behind us, we got all this artwork. We didn't get to these calls on the wall, so we'll get to those in the next show. We'll kick it off with that.
We'll kick it off with that, and then we'll go into, as you see the background behind us, we'll go into that.
Yeah, so if you're enjoying WildCast, come back. We're going to
talk about some folk art.
Diving in more next week. So thank you for tuning in. Tony, thank you.
Thank you.
For this time. Amy, thank you for lining this up. This has been great. This is Tennessee WildCast. If you enjoy what you're seeing, keep coming back. We're out there on YouTube. Find us on your favorite podcasting app if you want to listen to us. So we're out there on the radio, 24 different radio stations across the state. Find us out there and follow us on our social media accounts. And we appreciate you. And I hope you have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.